This is Mohit Chaube from SRM, fourth year bachelor's. And on behalf of the entire team, I'd like to welcome you all to the Zoom presentation of Urban Redevelopment Project done by the fourth year students of BR SRM. The site picked by us was Chennai. And three major things about Chennai: that it is the fourth largest city in the nation, the sixth most populated city of India, and the 31st most largest city of the globe. And hence, it proves that it is arguably the most important part of India, one of the most important cities. And hence, it had a lot of market projects going on in this particular city. It became slightly difficult for us what to pick and what not to pick. But we went with Saidapet market because of tons of reasons. However, six of the main reasons were: the first one being the use of wide variety of goods in this particular market, from veg market of fruits and vegetables to non-veg bazaars of fish and meat. This particular market had it all. And this particular market also made headlines in news and newspapers. So it was a quite famous market in the entire Chennai. The third reason is it had an entire Saidapet railway station close to it. So the Saidapet market is obviously named after it. And Saidapet market is probably the most important part of Saidapet right now, one of the most important part. The fourth reason being the great connectivity throughout the city. The major highways make sure that this particular market is well connected to the outer cities and the boundaries. The fifth reason, being one of the most important reason, is the opportunities. The wide variety of land use provides a great opportunity. The particular land has mixed use residential properties. It had open areas, it had a river close by, and definitely there's a market right in the center of it. So that became the fifth reason. And the sixth reason being it had a lot of soft data available online. With the all-around pandemic going on, it was really difficult for everyone to go visit the market every single day for studies. So we made sure we had a lot of soft data on the internet, and hence this particular market was a suitable fit for an urban redevelopment market project.
Hello, I'm Vishwanath. I'm going to talk about the history of Saidapet. In earlier days, Saidapet was a capital of Chengalput district. Later, it changed. Chengalpet was a capital of Chengalput district. Once, all Nandanam, Saidapet, East Mount Road, and land across the Adaya River, now Kotturpuram, and all belongs to Nawabs of Orchid, and also called as a Nawabs Garden. Later, Nawabs decided to develop that area, so they divided into 4 quarters, one for themselves and the other 3 for weavers, traders, artisans. According to that, people are settled among themselves. Adaya River Teachers Training College, Metropolitan Magistrate Court, Saidapet markets are the icons of Saidapet. Adaya River is one of the river which directly connects to the sea in Tamil Nadu. In olden days, people are using Adaya River for their daily usages. But nowadays, the Adaya River gets polluted. People are not using it. Saidapet market is one of the oldest market in the city. In olden days, fish products and all export from here to some other countries like Europe, Italian, like that.
My name is Vidya and I'll be taking forward with the history of Saidapet. Saidapet was also hit by filariasis disease, due to which it lost a lot of population, and it spread throughout Saidapet due to the lack of sanitation in this area. The 5 maps in the bottom here show how the quadrants were split and how the settlements started increasing throughout the years and how redevelopment started happening throughout the years.
Hello everyone, I'm Amrita and I'll be taking over the land use and extent segment of this sheet. So the maximum land use in the delineated area that we have chosen consists of primary residential, followed by institutional areas, that is, you have railway station, and then you have green and major open spaces, commercial and mixed residential. Mixed residential mainly entails ground floor buildings with ground floor as shops and first floor and second floor as residences. The criteria considered for the delineated area are Saidapet railway station's location, the location of Saidapet bus stand, and informal settlements along Adayar River, which act as both customer base for the market as well as a workers base for the auxiliary workers in the market. And the total area is about 0.56 square kilometer.
Welcome back. I'm going to discuss about the geographical features of Saidapet. As you can see in the contour map, I have taken a total of 10 kilometer by 10 kilometers square to prove what exactly the contour thing is going on in that particular area. As it is clearly visible that Saidapet market as in such does not have any slopes right in the market side. However, when you see a bigger look, we get to see that it is slightly sloping towards the east side and the south side. And on the west side, it has a slight more elevation. So that was for the contour parts, which did not affect the site much. However, slight drainage problems can be solved. with the climate issues, this particular site did not have much of a microclimate because of one main reason. The vegetation in this particular area was missing. They had vegetation. However, we were not able to find a dense vegetation of it or a dense group of trees anywhere. So that made sure it had a typical Chennai hot and humid climate with precipitation levels going up to 300 mm at max in the particular site. It had a wide variety of flora and fauna in this particular area, with neem trees and people trees being the most common. Small bushes across every single area, plus Arya River that served as the major purpose of watering the plants in that particular area. As far as the animals goes, it's an urban area. We found most of the animals being the stray dogs and the stray cats. Two of the most common bird species that were found is spot pelican and white burrowed bulbul. So these two were the only major birds that were found roaming around the site and close to Saidapet.
Hello, this is Pradeep Sundar, and I'll be explaining about the introduction of Saidapet. So coming to the introduction, the Maraimalai Adigal Bridge, it was constructed in 1726, which connects the northern banks of Adayar with the south. And it was later constructed in 1960s, and now it acts as the connecting bridge between Guindy and Saidapet. So people coming from Guindy to Saidapet market, they come through this bridge to cross the Adayar River in Anasalai. It was originally obtained by the British East India Company in 1700s, and it also acted as the administrative headquarters of Chengalpet until 1946. In 1945, around 1945 to 1946, Saidapet was included in the Chennai City Corporation, and the administrative headquarters was shifted to Chengalpettu itself. So until then, Saidapet was the administrative headquarters of Chengalpettu, and it had a large weaver population, and handlooms were operated until late 1990s as well. It is also known as Saidai. It's a neighborhood in Chennai, and the nearby areas include West Mambalam, T Nagar, and Guindy. The Saidapet Court, it is the only other court of judicature of Chennai other than the Madras High Court. And then coming to the accessibility and transportation, the suburban railway station in Saidapet, it is located between the stations of Guindy and Mambalam, and it is also easily accessible from the main road as well. It also has a MTC bus terminus along with the metro station. The MTC bus terminus, it has frequent bus services originating from this place to other important parts of the city. And the metro station, it was inaugurated in 2019 only, and it also connects the bus terminus nearby. The only complaint is that it has been built so far away from the actual Saidapet, but it still serves nearby adjacent areas as well. So that's it about the introduction of Saidapet. I will leave it over to the next person. Thank you.
Hi, my name is George Thomas, and I'll be explaining about the traffic analysis, the access, and the footfall of Saidapet market. So near to our site itself is the Saidapet suburban railway station, and we have Adayar River, which is running by near to our site itself. And the traffic congestion during peak hours, the main roads which are abutting to our site is Bazaar Road, Genius Road, and the Anasalai Road. So coming on to the footfall on each day of a week, like each days, mainly the rush will be more on Saturdays and Sundays, which is the weekends, and on the morning time, the people will be more for the meat and fish market, as it will be functioning till afternoon time, and the vegetable and flower market will be functioning till the evening time, and main footfall will be more on the weekends. So coming on to the major pedestrian access to the site, it is marked on red color, and the main bus stops are between to our site, and the two-wheeler access is from Bazaar Road, Genius Road, and the main Anasalai Road. And this is the access through the Kasimade and Coimbatore road. And the major traffic congestion closest to the site is the Bazaar Road, which is denoted on the map. And these are the images of the Genius Road, and the entry towards the fish and meat market. So the main access to our site is through bikes and buses. The 90% of access to our site is through bikes and buses. As we went to the place, the market, we met a lady. Her name was Raji. She said that she was coming all the way from Avadi. She's picking up 2 buses to reach the site. So there are so many hawkers and vendors who are not only from Saidapet, they are also coming from outside to sell in Saidapet market. The main mode of transportation for coming into the Saidapet market area is through bikes and buses to the site.
Hello, I'm Akanksha Singh, and I'll be taking forward the presentation in which I'll be talking about the 2 streets that are connected to our study market area. One of them is the Bazaar Road, and another one is the Genius Street. I'll be talking about the Bazaar Street, which is on the northern side of our study area. So this Bazaar Road was originally 10 meter wide, but was further divided into 3 parts. In the present day, it's divided into 3 parts. One of them is an underpass. It's 3 meter wide, and acts as a two-way road. Another one is the one which is connected to the Vinayagumpet Street, which is on the west side of our street. This street is also 3 meter wide and acts as a two-way street. This street was mainly used to bring in goods to the market and is connected through an FOB to the market from where the goods are bought into the market. The last one is a part of the market which is 2 meter wide and are occupied by the flower vendors. So it's completely pedestrianized and there's no vehicular movement in that particular part of the road, which is in this area. Now, due to the street vendors, which acts as pause points for the users on the street and on street parking, the junction between the Bazaar Road and this red area, that is the junction between the Bazaar Road and GNS Street, becomes very crowded in peak hours and hence creating pedestrian and vehicular conflicts in that particular region of the area and cause traffic congestion.
Moving on to Genus Road, a few activities were mapped for Genus Road to find out certain issues, such as spaces susceptible to crowds, street hawker influence, informal parking spaces, ground floor storefronts, active spaces on the edges, and inactive spaces on the edges. So, for example, certain pockets branched out from Genus Street have a lot of informal bike and bicycle parking, and street hawkers are also thronging throughout Genus Street, selling different kinds of merchandise and items. When it comes to vehicular congestion and vehicular pedestrian conflict, Genus Street also suffers from these problems, where there's a heavy flow of two-wheelers and there is no segregated footpath or pathway for pedestrians, which causes pedestrian and vehicular conflict as well as crowding and congestion.
Moving on with the existing planning of the market, the diagram in the left shows the goods movement for a vegetable market. The green line indicates the movement of goods from the Genus Road through the Bazaar Road and entering the Binagampet Road, where it drops off the goods near the market right here. Then the goods are moved into the shops respectively, which is depicted by these thinner green lines. The red line indicates how the waste disposal works. So it is collected from the same point as the point of goods drop off. The diagram on the right shows the goods movement for the non-veg market. So you have the drop off on the Genus Street at the entry of at the main entry of the fish and meat market, and then the goods movement inside the market is shown with the thinner green lines. The red line shows the waste disposal. So the waste is collected from the main entry itself, where the group of goods are dropped off. Moving on with the zoning, the number 1 here indicates the main entry into the fish and meat market. Number 2 is the main pedestrian entry into the market. 3 and 4 are secondary entries to the market. 5 is the main entry into the vegetable market. 7 is the waste disposal point. 8 is where the goods are dropped off. 9 is the warehouse. 10 is a temple, and 11 is an existing toilet right behind the temple. Number of shops in the vegetable market are 128, and number of shops in the fish and meat market are 116, making it a total of 244 shops. The aisle width between 2 rows of shops are varying from 1.5 meters to 0.9 meters, which is very irregular and hence makes it really claustrophobic during peak hours. Moving on. The first diagram here shows the existing built structures around the markets. The height of the buildings go from G+1 to G+4 maximum. The second diagram shows the vehicular movement around the market. So you can see how the vehicles have access to the market from all the directions. The third diagram here shows how the hawkers are distributed on the peripheral roads. So the maximum hawkers are seen on the Genus Street and the Bazaar Road because of the constant movement of people and vehicles there. The fourth diagram in the bottom is the existing built structures inside the market. The fifth diagram shows how the pedestrians move inside the market and the main entry points for pedestrians. And the last diagram here shows the existing FOB, which connects the northern part of the Bazaar Road and the market, below which is a subway. So this FOB is only about 2 to 2.5 meters wide and is used mainly by the market people to transfer goods from the northern side of Bazaar Road into the market, and is barely used by pedestrians in general.
Coming to the module spot in this particular bazaar, we had a wide variety of modules. However, we were able to classify them on the basis of their physical typologies, the material used, the areas, and we came to a conclusion of a total of 3 to 4 modules that were particularly repeated in this particular site with slight variance in the dimensions and slight variance in the materials used. The first typology was the typology that was mostly used, in the fish and the meat bazaar area. So this particular typology had a segregation in between done by a partition wall that was constructed by brick and mortar and was cladded by porcelain tiles and pink color or blue color paint about them. So this particular module had 2 parts in it. The first part, which was segregated by the partition wall, was the part that sold the meat, and the second part was the part that sold the fish and the dry and the wet fish, both of them. So in this particular module, the entire module was roofed by an asbestos sheet around 6 to 8 millimeters in width. The entire module had, and it did have as in such a truss structure. Rather, it was supported with steel columns, and every single column had slight rust in them. So boards were fallen down, issues were caused, and shopkeepers themselves welded these boards onto the asbestos sheet as per their requirements and need. It held the structure. However, it had a lot of still damages and concerns that needed to be addressed. The dimensions of this particular module were 5 meters by 4 meters. However, every single module had their own variance in them, and hence the dimension varied from module to module. This was just an average dimension. The second module served as a purpose of mixed module. So it had its place in the fish market, the meat market, in the veg stores, and also in the stores for other goods or flower shops. This particular module had just one side in them. And again, it was also roofed by asbestos sheet around 6 to 8 mm width. It was supported by a steel column. Again, it did not have a proper truss structure in them. The bolts were again fallen down and were welded by shopkeepers. Lots of issues were called. Skirting was done with porcelain tiles, and this particular module had porcelain tile flooring to them also. And the plinth level changes from module to module, and plus the distance also changes, the length and the width both. However, this particular module was shared. For example, we have one module of 4 meter by 1.8 meter. It was shared by 2 to 3 shopkeepers in that particular. And if they did not want to share it, the module was slightly reduced in size. And that particular new module created was again owned by one particular shopkeeper. Many of the modules have storing spaces right inside them. So these were constructed with wood. However, the wood was completely damaged and it had termites in them. So many of the modules were abandoned also, not even fit for sitting there. So it was completely abandoned. Moving on to another typology of module, it is called the long stretch. And this particular module was 16 to 20 meters in length and 7 to 10 meters in width. And the particular module housed around 20 to 25 storage units, rooms, and 30 plus shopkeepers owned this particular module. They sit on the plinth level and they sell their goods, whereas the extra goods that were stored in the storage areas. A difference that this particular module had, that it did not support it did not have just normal steel structures. Rather, it had a proper truss structure that supported the asbestos roofing above it. However, the wooden truss structure had termites in them and it was too weak, whereas the truss structure that were created by steel had been rusted, and yet it needed again welding purpose because the bolts were again fallen down. This particular module, the materials used were brick and mortar to construct the walls, then porcelain tiles, skirting, and exposed concretes here and there. And as we can see in the plan, not every single shop has its own plinth level, but rather a common plinth level, and around 3 to 4 areas where the steps were provided for the entire shop module to circulate around. The people used to take the steps to move around. Whereas in the section, we can see another difference is that wall did not reach to the top. The wall had chopped off right at the center because an extra gap was created basically above that served as the purpose for truss as well as ventilation and daylighting purposes. However, this was not well maintained during the rainy seasons, and the goods were spoiled, the roofs were leaking out, the trusses were starting to have major damages in them, and hence this module needed a lot of attention to it.
To get to know the market even better, we wanted to look at the market from the user's perspective. So we tried talking and interviewing a few of the people inside the market, mainly them being the daily wage workers, the shop owners and the customers, and a few other people. The objective of study for the market was categorized into 4 categories. So you have functionality, imageability, socioeconomic, and accessibility. After which we came down with 6 objectives. So the first image shows decongestion through rearranging of market modules. Second being address and solve issues of parking space for all stakeholders. Third being proper stormwater drainage and air ventilation inside the market. Next was the waste disposal system and the sanitation inside the market, and decongestion of footpaths, and also traffic calming in the main roads, which are the Genus Road and the Bazaar Road. After which we tried to list down the issues inside the market. So main issues that we identified were the improper garbage disposals near each shop and unhygienic conditions inside the market. Here in the first image, you can see how the roofs are sort of just done with fabrics wherever the roof has broken or become loose. This during heavy rains collects water and hence is really a problematic situation. The second image shows how the streets sort of narrow down as you move into the market, and hence during peak hours of the market, it gets really claustrophobic inside. The third image shows the front view of the temple inside the market, and here you can see how the goods are even stored around the market, around the temple in the market. The last image shows how the washroom is right behind the temple, and even on the temple walls, people use it as a space to dry their clothes. On a street level basis, we try to identify a few more issues. So mainly it is pedestrian crowding. Since there is no proper footpath in this major street, people also walk on the main road, and hence, and since you also have a lot of traffic moving, this causes a lot of congestion in traffic. And you have a lot of street hawkers, and people just park their vehicles right next to the hawkers to buy stuff quickly. And this on-street parking again adds on to the congestion of traffic in these major streets, especially Genus Road and Bazaar Road.
This is Ayyappan. I will be talking about the proposals made on Genus Street. Basically, Genus Road is the road that connects Anna Salai with the market, and it has a stretch of around 25 meters from Anna Salai, and the width varies from 10.8 to 11 meters. And this road has a lot of retail shops, restaurants, and tea shops, and utensil shops, etc. And so we have made proposals on pedestrian pathways and two-wheeler parking. So we have provided with 2.5 meter pedestrian pathway on the left side of the track with pockets for two-wheeler parking. And on the right side of the track, we have provided 1 meter wide pedestrian pathways. And in middle, we have the 8 meter wide two-way track. And this is a schematic plan showing the pedestrian pathway and the road. And these are some few renders of the pedestrian pathways and two-wheeler parking.
This is Balaji, and we are going to talk about the Bazaar Road proposal. The Bazaar Road is located perpendicular to the Genus Road and adjacent to the Anna Salai. In the given image on the top, the highlighted black area is the Bazaar Road, which leads into the Anna Salai. We are going to see the various issues faced in the Bazaar Road, such as no proper designated area for street hawkers, which causes a lot of pedestrian traffic, and improper street parking for two-wheelers and autos, which cause a lot of vehicular traffic. We have designed a proposal accordingly to mitigate these issues. Over to Deepika.
This is Deepika, and I'll be talking about the proposals that we have designed for the Bazaar Road. So initially, the Bazaar Road was used as a two-way road, which caused a lot of congestion on the street during the peak hours. The pedestrians did not get a designated area, as well as the people who park their vehicles, two-wheelers as well as autos, did not have a proper place. So firstly, we have changed the circulation to a one-way road, which would reduce a lot of congestion in that particular street. Secondly, we have introduced pedestrian pathways of 0.9 meters on both the sides and 1.8 meters of angular two-wheeler parking on one side. This creates a designated area for the pedestrians as well as an assigned place for the two-wheeler parking. In the given circulation map below, we have marked the bus stops and the metro station in the vicinity areas. So the public coming from the bus stops can access the pedestrian pathways from the Bazaar Road, which is from the Anna Salai. They can access the pedestrian pathways in the Bazaar Road. Given below are the plans and the sections respectively. And on the right-hand side are the visual representations of the Bazaar Road.
Moving on with the proposed plan for the market, the diagram on the left shows the circulation of goods for the vegetable market. So the main idea of this new circulation was to decongest Genus Road, as it's one of the major roads for vehicular movement. And since the drop-off and pickup was done for the non-veg market on the Genus Street, it becomes very congested during peak hours. And also the hawkers spend a lot of time on the road, making it even more congested. So the diagram on the left shows the movement for the vegetable market. So they enter through this road here and form a sort of a loop by dropping the goods near the market, after which the goods are put into the shops respectively, and entering into the Vinayagampet Road again. And the collection of waste is done from the same point as well, because the drop-off of goods is done at 5 a.m. in the morning and the collection of goods is done at around 8 p.m. in the night. The diagram on the right shows the movement for the meat and fish market. So the entry is same for both the markets, but the goods after the drop-off, the vehicles take the rear road and enter into the Genus Road again. So forming another loop movement for the goods.
Yes, so now for a better flow of the market and the functionality, and to improve its functionality, we proposed a new master plan by zoning the non-veg market and having a different and trying out different circulation and making the Bazaar Road and Vinayagampet Street a one-way street. So due to which we got a lot of pros. That is, we were able to fit in the kirana store. We were able to fit in the kirana stores and the two-wheeler parking. We were able to relocate the toilet facilities away from the temple, which was again a question to the dignity of the temple. And because of which we got a nice green space. Here you can see a nice green space around the temple, which actually acts as the central of the whole site, and all the pedestrian entries meet at this temple point, which is now the central point of the whole market. Further, here are the few visual representations of what are the existing build structures in and around a market site. What is the vehicular movement? How are the hawkers arranged near our site. Then what is the proposed build structure and roof structure for our market site? These are the pedestrian entry points and pedestrian movement inside our site. And the last is we proposed a expansion of footover bridge to connect the other side of the road, which is also now a part of the market. Here are the zoomed in vegetable market. Here this shows arrangement of the different types of modules. We've used 3 modules which are color coded over here and in the plan and in the section. The black dashed lines are the two main pathways which are approached to the entries through the entries, and the blue ones are the secondary pathways abutting the main ones. And here is one of the views of the vegetable market. Similarly, we've color coded and we've used 3 modules for the non-veg market. The biggest one being for the meat market, since it includes activities like chopping and chopping. So we've used the blue ones are for the meat, and the red and orange ones are for the fish and dry and wet fish market. And again, the black dashed lines are the main axis, which are 2 meter wide, and the blue ones are narrower pathways and the blue ones are the narrower pathways in the market area. Near the meat market, we have provided seating spaces for the person to wait. And here is one of the views of how the non-veg market modules are arranged. Further, Amrita will be taking upon the expansion of FOB proposal. Thank you.
Moving on to the intervention of the footover bridge, one of the main issues that we discovered after many talks with our stakeholders was that the underpass that was built, I think about 2 to 3 decades ago, caused a rupture in business and a decrease in revenue. And so we tried to literally bridge the gap by expanding the footover bridge. The proposed structure is an extension of the existing footover bridge. So there's a small existing footover bridge right here, which follows the aesthetic of the market as well. So a sloped roof is provided. This is an exploded view of the footover bridge. Several street shop owners have complained regarding the loss of business after the Alandur underpass was constructed. And so in order to reinvigorate revenue in the entire market, we thought of taking the extended footover bridge as a connection between Saidapet market, the Kirana stores, and also brick and mortar shops and cafes at the other side of Bazaar Road, and sort of integrating all of them together in one single space.
The proposed modules that were proposed for this particular site were actually more or less like a square shaped, which had around dimensions of 1.5 meters by 1.5 meters. And this particular modules could be constructed within 4 days by use of 2 people at max. In step 1, holes were dug and steel columns were put into the plinth level, which served as the foundation of this particular module. Above it, the structures such as steel mess, insulation levels, and the slab was placed, which serves as the plinth. And hence, by the end of day 1, the entire plinth level was constructed for this particular module. In day 2, the walls and the insulation levels were placed by one person, and the second person would be assisting him with the adding up of paint in the inside, or he may add the doors, which is probably in the day 3. On the day 3, after the roof has been constructed, because few modules do not have roof as in such, whereas few has. So on the day 3, the doors were constructed. This particular doors also acted as the sun shading devices of the module when they were opened, and also as the windows. And by the end of day 3 or the start of day 4, the entire wooden module is now cladded with wooden cladding materials, the entire module. And a small platform is created right in the front of the module that served as the purpose for selling running goods, whereas the interior of the module is now used as the storage unit. And we had 3 major modules, or more than that, what used in this particular site. The plans and the elevations are shown in the left side. However, just in case, let's say a person is coming to the site for future expansion after 5 years from now, will this person have the same modules? Will his requirements increase? Will his requirements decrease? On the basis of that, this particular modules can be transformed with larger spaces, smaller spaces, modules with high ceiling levels, modules open, modules that had awnings on them. So multiple modules can be created on the basis of requirements, what the person wants in the future. It's a clear future requirement. And as you can see in the diagrams, step 1, step 2, and step 3, the module can be closed and opened. So the platform, when not in use, let's say during fish and meat market, these particular markets close at the time of 9 or 10 a.m. So after that, that particular platform is not used at all. And that particular platform uses space on the street, which reduces the street width. Now, in this particular new typology of module, the platform can be folded back, and hence it increases 1.5 meters on either side of the road, which can be now used by the pedestrians or the people of the veg market areas if they want to roam around the site. On the step 3, we can add this sun shading device. Is not add, it's like a door which is now open. As you can see in the section it is given, this door is now particularly open and it acts as the shading devices. This particular module had options in them. If they wanted a shading devices or proper shading devices, they can add it. If they want an awning on them, they can add it. If they want a completely open module, yes, they can still do so because the entire site is now covered with a roof above it. The exploded isometric view is as follows. We have a total of 2 major modules. The first one being the completely closed and with the shading device, whereas the second one being the completely open with just an awning. The materials used were GFRG sheets, walls, rapid wall systems, as we call in Chennai. It is slightly cost effective than normal brick and mortar cement. And wooden cladding was done. It is not really necessary, but the wooden cladding brought a sense of Saidapet feel into it. And hence we selected this particular material to be used for the cladding purpose. And this wooden elements can also be recycled from the site. So it's slightly sustainable approach. The platform can be added in the later stages, and other materials such as waterproof coating, then foam board covers or fiberglass doors, stainless steel hinges. These particular small elements bought in the period of Saidapet, and it brought a sense of comfort in the modules as well because waterproofing became a slightly important thing. On the second particular module, what we saw, it is slightly very minimalist approach because we do not have much of a shelves inside. We do not have high wall systems or high ceiling systems. Rather, we have just an awning system, an awning that this particular awning had inscriptions of Saidapet feel into it. Not just flat covered, but slight textures, slight patterns of Chennai.
Moving on to the main proposal, which is the market space and the certain roofing or roofing structure for the market. As you can see, we tried to go for a kind of aesthetic which is more appropriate for the context of Saidapet. And so the street characteristic as such aesthetically does not have a distinct image of its own. However, we took certain Southern Indian or certain vernacular elements such as pitched roof, and we superimposed those ideas with more modern technology or more modern construction method. And we chose the portal frame structure so that we have a completely column-free space. Most of the column is in the periphery. And we have the interiors also in more of a vernacular style. And for natural lighting and ventilation, we have these jali structures or jali openings on top, which is more of a modernistic extrusion or expression of the larger sloped roof. Public space between these two roofs is also created, which emphasizes the temple's entrance.
So for the roofing material, we thought of going for a portal frame structure since it is usually, since it is a large span structure and can be used for a single story space where we need an unobstructed place like market space or factories. So we thought of providing it with a little bit hint of using jali and jalis for ventilation and daylighting. And here are the structural drawings of the roof structure that we've used. And the purlin space, which is and the purlin span is around 2 to 3 meters, and the column size which we have used is 300 mm by 300 mm, with a span of 3 to 5 meters on the perimeter of the vegetable and the non-veg market.